So, we're going to Muskegon for 4 days, 3 nights. We're going to Grand Haven 3 days, 2 nights. But groups of 5 to 8 people the first time. They'll meet together first. So we're bringing people from Muskegon to Grand Haven and from Grand Haven to Muskegon. And ideally, we want to get to the place where we're bringing the people who actually talk about being afraid of crossing the bridge, which is very true and real on both sides. But to get there, we're starting with kind of thought leaders in the communities and hopefully people that aren't already spending all that time. So it is a growing experience too. Bringing folks to experience, the food and the downtowns and the churches and the parts that are the stereotypes and what's true about it and what's not true about it. In both cases, I'll be meeting with the prosecuting attorneys and the police chiefs in the communities. When people come to Grand Haven, there's all the tourist stuff, and then we're also going to have a meal at Loving Spoonfuls and talk about the invisible poverty and the things that aren't so on the surface. So it's a real opportunity for that kind of engagement. The groups will meet first, then they'll go on their individual trips. Dale and I will be with both groups in both of the settings. And then the groups will come together again to kind of debrief. And then hopefully we'll end up doing a presentation of some sort at Muskegon Community College, both campuses, Muskegon and Grand Haven, so that there's a kind of a ripple effect of what we're impacting. And we hope, we're working on sponsorships right now so that the people going on the exchange don't have to pay anything. But we hope that it gets popular and that people start wanting to go and are willing to help foot the bill for that so that we could do it a couple of times a year. It really started changing the dynamics. I can tell you that the people I've talked to who have expressed, who have said they want to go, they need to make sure that the date is clear, are people like our new mayor, Bob Manetza, Ryan Cummins, who's on our commission, Sheriff Steve Kemker, Chris Burns from Spring Lake,
Jeremy Swifney from
Main Street, and a couple of other people who have, like Chris Moulter-Gray, who's part of our community, Sandy Huber, who have both said if we need somebody else, we'll give up our spot. But we're specifically really trying to bring kind of white Grand Haven to experience black Muskegon, recognizing Muskegon's a lot of different communities and cultures, but really kind of focusing more on going to Muskegon Heights and going to the Church of God in Christ, temple, right? Temple Baptist, or Christ Temple, which is, I've been there before, fabulous, and so that's.
Yeah, and I'd say from my perspective also, I'd like for people from, I'll say northern Ottawa County to also realize, I understand the racial issue is that that's a major component, but there are multiple times more money being invested in Muskegon than northern Ottawa County from a business and economic perspective. Like over $1 billion with a B right now. And Muskegon's typically thought of elders, a bunch of black people in these impoverished areas. It cracks me up, and that was the same way that it was when I grew up. It is substantially different, and if you haven't been there, in some cases you won't recognize it. And conversely, the same people from Muskegon who I had people who, like I said, did not want us to invest in Ottawa County. And when's the last time you've been there? What have you done to reach out to make a difference? Because that's the issue. Many of your employees live in Ottawa County. They work in Muskegon County. Yet you still have the attitude that you don't care. So I'd like to encourage some of the folks from Muskegon who ordinarily they have that 30, 40-year-old attitude to you have to change it up because no one really cares if you're 35 years old or 3 years old about what you think is going on and what happened in the past. So.
And then a lot of intentional reflection throughout, just like the international tour. So we'll talk, it's not just let's just go and have a fun weekend, but what are we experiencing? What are we experiencing physically, emotionally, spiritually? How are our relationships being changed? How are we different when we go back home? So yeah, that's intention.
May I, Barb?
Yes, you may, Stan.
Hi, I'm Stan Skiga, proud resident of Muskegon, and a Wolverine fan, sir.
I'm sorry to hear that.
You know, it's always fun to listen to these things, so, and this isn't a question, this is more of a comment. My wife grew up in Muskegon Heights. Her father had a corner grocery store in the corner of Hackley and Sixth Street. And as Dale, when you talked about your father, this is my father-in-law, this guy was that guy.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And he was absolutely colorblind, and perhaps some of you gentlemen may know. But it was a great example for us, for my wife and her ethics and her beliefs. But I live in Muskegon, I've always lived in Muskegon except for a very short period of time. I've worked in Grand Haven since 1985. It's a great perspective, but I love, you made one comment, Barb, about the misconception of Muskegon. It's just incredible. I mean, I'm part now of All Shores Wesleyan Church, which is a big church in Spring Lake. And we have a campus in the Nims neighborhood. And even sitting down with the leaders of All Shores, because it's in Muskegon, they just automatically assume it's a black neighborhood. It's not. It's 80% white.
Right, yeah.
It's a mixed, and that 20% is not black, it's Hispanic, it's a variety, it's a melting pot, like you talked about. And I love the people that, from this side of the bridge, that have this crazy fear of going to Muskegon. Quick stories, and I apologize, I don't mean to be inappropriate, but realtor friends of mine who are afraid to show a property in Muskegon. And they'll call me, would you go do this? Why not? Absolutely, and that literally does happen. And I just laugh at it, because why would you not do that? But it's always been interesting for me over the years to see that. You know, we come from, modest background, but families that were well-grounded and had, my mother was a nurse at Hackley Hospital, so she was in a very integrated workplace. And I grew up with her friends in that integrated workplace. And my father-in-law and his store was a very, almost more minority than it was anything. So these examples, it's interesting because it's just like, I sometimes have a hard time, I understand it, but I don't understand people's racism thoughts. Because in the eyes of God, what are we? We are all created equal. All created equal, it doesn't matter anything. But again, I am so happy that we came today, Mark, thank you
Me
very much.
too, so good to see you. And just, I've shared this in the past, but my history with Muskegon, in addition to working there many times, is that my father graduated from Muskegon High School, my mother graduated from Muskegon Heights. Both of my sets of grandparents were part of White Flight. And kind of reconciling with that over the years has been really interesting. Moved to Fruitport, which is where then I graduated from. So, these things they're real and they're genuine. One of the reasons I wanted to speak specifically to white women is that the only pushback I've gotten on this trip at all has been from white women. So I think that's really
As
fascinating.
in, what do you mean there's a bias across the bridge?
Yeah, and why would, and if there is, we just need to get along, right?
Be nicer.
Yeah. One more and then we're gonna break for lunch and
Okay, yeah,
then
I
we'll
just-
continue.
I just wanted to ask if you guys are still taking participants for anybody that might want to, join, if it's open.
Well, we're being a little more intentional about inviting as opposed to here's just the sign up, because again, we're trying to find those thought leaders. But if you are interested, let us know. Because, everybody has their sphere of influence, right? And And so please do, let us know if that's something you're interested in participating in. We'll be going to Muskegon, it's a weekend in June, and then to Grand Haven, a weekend in July, a long weekend, so. And it's a commitment through that whole time. It's not like I'm gonna hang out in the morning and go home at night. It's like we're gonna be together that whole time.
Yes.
So, let's go ahead and break for lunch, so it doesn't get too cold. I have asked our speakers to make a beeline and go get their food first. And because otherwise everyone will stop them on the way, and then nobody will wanna go eat till they do, and it'll take forever. So, please allow our speakers to go right back. I told them, do not pause. They are. And then please,
You wanted to talk with you, because he really,
Yeah, we used to live right in the city.
he was just saying he wanted to just have a conversation.
Where do you live, Lizette? Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so you live up at Dennis Street? It's a nice vacant lot. But they lived up above the street. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're little.
I grew up right next door I was
Or here's one that I